I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every relationship you've ever been in and everyone you'll ever have. The future of your relationship is not in your hands, not your loyalty, not your effort, not the sacrifices you've made or the patience you've shown at 2 a.m. when she couldn't explain why she was angry again. None of it. Because the man who already damaged what you're trying to build, he was there before you, and you never even met him. Let that sit for a second. Now, here's where it stops being a feeling and starts being a fact. Studies tracking female relationship satisfaction by partner count show the same result every time. After 4 previous partners, satisfaction doesn't gradually decline, it collapses permanently. That's not her having a bad week. That's her new baseline, and you are trying to build something on top of it. Relationship stability data is even colder. After 2 previous partners, separation risk doubles. After 4, the statistics stop being a warning. They become a timeline. You just haven't been shown it yet. And the number nobody puts in their relationship content, fidelity drops consistently with each additional partner. Not sometimes, not in extreme cases, consistently. The research is not ambiguous on this. Not because she chose to be this way, because of what those relationships did to her biology. That is what we're going to talk about today. Here's what nobody explains to you, and it's the foundation of everything else. Every man a woman sleeps with leaves a neurological mark. Not metaphorically, literally. At the level of neural pathways and hormonal conditioning, each new relationship triggers a specific cocktail: dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline. The brain experiences it. The brain memorizes it. The brain begins to expect it. Now, here's the critical part. The emotional peak of any relationship, that overwhelming, consuming, obsessive feeling at the beginning, that phase is neurologically indistinguishable from cocaine addiction. Same reward circuits, same dopamine spikes, same withdrawal when it ends. Imagine a woman who has been through that cycle 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Her brain has adapted. The stimulation threshold has risen. What once felt like electricity now barely registers. Stable love, the kind that actually sustains a life together, now reads in her nervous system as flatline. She doesn't choose this consciously. She can't help it. But here's what you need to understand. You will be the one who lives with the consequences. This is why nothing you do ever feels like enough. Why she gets restless during the good weeks. Why she manufactures problems when things are calm. Her nervous system doesn't recognize peace as a reward. It recognizes it as a warning sign that the excitement is gone. You're not failing her. Her threshold has simply moved beyond what any normal relationship can reach. Let's talk about the bonding hormone, oxytocin. This is the chemical responsible for attachment, for that specific pain you feel when someone you love disappears, that hollow physical grief after a real breakup. That's oxytocin withdrawal. That's your body mourning a biological bond. Here's what happens when a woman goes through that cycle repeatedly. The brain, in self-defense, starts producing less of it. The bonding response weakens. Leaving becomes physiologically easier each time. Not because she's cold, because her nervous system has learned to protect itself from the cost of attachment. What this means for you, practically: she will not feel the weight of losing you the way she should. When the relationship hits a real crisis, financial pressure, health problems, a period where you're not at your best, her nervous system doesn't activate the fight for this response. It activates the exit response, because that's the pathway that's been reinforced over and over until it became automatic. Her neural wiring is not built for repair. It's built for departure. And the most disturbing part, she won't feel guilty about it. Not because she's a sociopath, because her nervous system no longer classifies leaving as a loss. It classifies it as a solution. I want you to sit with this one. If you are the fifth man in her life, what specifically do you think you are offering her that she hasn't already experienced? The first serious conversation about the future already happened with someone else. The first time she genuinely thought she'd found the right person already happened with someone else. The first real emotional vulnerability, the first sense of this is different, the first moment she let someone in completely already happened multiple times with multiple men. You're not her beginning. You are her continuation. Every romantic gesture you make is a callback in her memory to a gesture someone else made first. Every serious conversation is passing through a filter built from 4 similar conversations with 4 different men. You are not writing chapter 1. You are somewhere deep in a book that was already well underway before you arrived. And here's what makes this truly suffocating. You have to be better than all of them. Not one of them. All of them. Simultaneously. Her first was wealthy. Her second was physically exceptional. Her third had a presence that filled every room. Her fourth was intense in a way she still thinks about. You now have to be the composite, the sum of every high point from every man she's ever been with. The moment you fall short in a single dimension, one, her brain activates the comparison. And in that comparison, you will always lose something because you're being measured not against one person, but against an idealized collage assembled from multiple relationships. This is not about fairness. This is about how memory and desire actually work. Every time a woman exits a relationship, her brain records the same lesson. There is always another option. Do this enough times, and it rewires her decision-making at the deepest level. She develops what I call infinite choice syndrome, a background process that never fully shuts off, constantly asking, is there something better? This doesn't go away when she's with you. It runs underneath everything, even when things are genuinely good, even when you are, by any objective measure, a strong partner, even when she tells you she's happy. Part of her neural architecture is always scanning, always calculating, always keeping one door slightly open, not out of malice, but out of conditioning. Real love requires the ability to close other doors, not reluctantly, not with one hand still on the handle. Actually close them completely and mean it. A woman whose nervous system has been trained on frequent transitions struggles with this physiologically. Her brain reads commitment as limitation, limitation as loss of control as danger. So she stays, but not fully. She's present, but not completely. You can feel it, even if you can't name it. That sense that she's simultaneously with you and somewhere else, that no matter how close you get, there's a last layer she never lets you reach. That's not a personality quirk. That's structural damage. Here's the mechanism most men miss entirely. When a woman has moved through many partners, her self-worth becomes chemically linked to male attention, not because she's shallow, because attention is what consistently delivered her dopamine hits. It became the signal her nervous system uses to confirm her own value. This creates a specific compulsion inside a committed relationship. She flirts, not necessarily with intent, reflexively, because her brain needs the signal, the confirmation, the spike of validation from someone who doesn't already know her, doesn't already love her, doesn't already expect things from her. Your consistent love stops reading as validation. It starts reading as baseline. something owed to her, not something that proves her worth. So she goes looking for the signal where it still feels new. And flirting, as every honest person knows, does not stay flirting. Not when the underlying need is neurological and the mechanism for restraint was never properly built. You will wonder what you did wrong. You will replay conversations, examine your behavior, look for the moment you failed her. The answer is you didn't fail her. You simply couldn't compete with the dopamine she gets from a stranger who doesn't know her yet. That is a rigged game. And you were never told the rules. Now I'm going to say something that separates real analysis from propaganda. Partner count is a variable, not a verdict. A woman who had 3 long-term relationships across 15 years is not the same as a woman who had 3 relationships before she turned 20. The pace matters. The reason each ended matters. What she did with the aftermath matters. A woman who was repeatedly abandoned and betrayed may carry all of this damage with a low number. Because trauma doesn't count partners, it counts wounds. And I'll acknowledge the rare exception. Some women, with genuinely high numbers, have done real psychological work. They've confronted the patterns, rebuilt their attachment system, changed their relationship with conflict and loss. Not just in the story they tell about themselves, but in actual behavior under pressure. I've seen this perhaps 4 or 5 times in over a decade of working with men on relationships. It's possible. I won't pretend otherwise. But here's the distinction most men cannot make until it's too late. The difference between a woman who has changed and a woman who has learned to describe herself as changed. One shows up differently when things get hard. The other gives you a very compelling explanation for why she's leaving. Don't confuse the two. Here's the part that's uncomfortable, but necessary. Men who consistently choose women with this kind of history are not passive victims, because the same emotional dysregulation that drives a woman through multiple partners also makes her intensely magnetic in the early stages. The unpredictability, the emotional intensity that reads as passion, the volatility that keeps your nervous system permanently activated, confused, destabilized, obsessed. Men who haven't done their own psychological work mistake that chaos for depth. They confuse being constantly off balance for being in love, and they keep choosing the same type of woman in slightly different packaging and getting the same result. If this pattern keeps repeating in your life, the question is not, why do I keep meeting women like this? The question is, what in me keeps selecting them? Because there is something in an emotionally undeveloped man that finds stable, secure women boring, that finds a woman without chaos somehow unconvincing, that has trained himself, just like she has trained herself, on the wrong kind of stimulation. The work isn't in finding the right woman. It's in becoming the kind of man who can actually recognize one and stay. Everything I've told you today comes down to a single question. Not, how many men did she have? That's the surface. That's the number that doesn't tell you the full story. The real question is, what did those relationships do to her capacity to stay? Can she sit in discomfort without running? Can she fight for something without immediately calculating the exit? When things are quiet and stable and ordinary, does she find meaning in that, or does she find it unbearable? Those answers will tell you more than any number ever could. And if you're honest, genuinely uncomfortably honest, you already know the answers. You've been watching them play out. You've been making excuses for them. You've been hoping that if you just love her enough, try hard enough, become enough, the answers will change. They won't. Not because change is impossible, but because change of this kind requires a person to want it more than they want the familiar. And the familiar, for most people, always wins. You can't want her healing more than she does. That's not love. That's a different kind of damage.